Let's talk about the new palette from Makeup by Mario. It is the Ethereal Eyes Moonlight version. It is a cool tone color story compared to the previous palette that released, which makes so much sense for the brand to be launching a cooler tone color story now that they have a warmer color story, and it's a makeup artist's own brand. Now, this palette is $68, so it is a pretty penny, but you're getting some really beautiful shimmer shadows, and you're getting even more of those in this palette. And if you've been on my channel, you know I love me some ethereal, sparkly type of topper-like shadows. And I do really enjoy the matte formula from the previous Ethereal Eyes, so I really wanted to pick this up. I'll also show you some comparisons to Urban Decay, Moira, and e.l.f. shadows as well. So let's take a closer look at the shimmer shadows, some comparisons, and then I'll be creating these two looks, and then I'll give you some of my initial thoughts at the end of the video, so let's get right into it. So first I'm going to swatch the 4 shimmer shades. Feel drier with a silky smooth texture, and they are ultra sparkly, and this one is definitely more topper-like, this one is the most opaque, and this one is kind of an in-between. Super sheer, very sparkly though. And then the last one, and this is the shade in the bottom row. I feel like this one is not as sparkly as the shade above it, which it would be the shade. Also quite sheer for sure. I'm actually gonna add another layer just to see. Okay, it does build up a little bit. So here's all the shades swatched, and they are just super smooth and very sparkly with varying levels of opacity, which I definitely love that. Here they are in comparison to the previous Makeup by Mario palette. The shade from Ethereal Eyes has silver sparkles, so it reflects silver, but texture wise they're right on par with the new palette, and these two shades are pretty different from these two textures. This one felt a little bit harder pressed, and so did this one, but especially this one. So next up for comparisons is the Makeup by Mario shade. Below that is Lithium from Urban Decay, and below that is How Charming from Moira, and below that is Filthy Rich from e.l.f. I think the Makeup by Mario shade is the lightest brown shade, and Lithium has a little bit more of an olive tone to the brown, and also there's a lot more silver sparkles in the Makeup by Mario shade, so it does flash a bit more silvery. So it makes it look a little bit lighter. So Makeup by Mario right here, Wild Dipper from Urban Decay, Space Cowboy from Urban Decay, Champagne Showers from e.l.f. and this bottom one is Space Cowboy Rides again from the new quad from Sephora, which looks like this. The Makeup by Mario shade looks more gold versus Space Cowboy Rides again. The shade has more of a peachy base to it as well, so I think they're pretty different, but you get kind of a very similar effect, and they do kind of feel a little bit more similar. Original Space Cowboy, you can see that orangey yellow base and just not as sparkly. Overall, the sparkles across the Makeup by Mario shades are very evenly dispersed. So the shades don't have names, they just have numbers. So I guess I'm just gonna point to them. So first, starting off with the blue, I'm gonna create an eyeshadow wing, and I primed with the Pat McGrath eyeshadow primer. I always prime. I never not use an eyeshadow primer, especially because I have hooded oily lids. Not that I'm going to be wearing this all day, but it's definitely like a super blue jean, like dark wash jean kind of blue. Just gonna pack on a little bit more. And then I'm gonna take a little bit of the black, and I'm just gonna pop it really close to my lash line. Just a tiny bit. I wiped off the brush, and I'm gonna go in with this shade. And I'm gonna take that on just very lightly on the edges. This is gonna be really chunky, kind of smoky wing. I have a little bit of fallout here, so I'm just gonna brush it up. I have these 3 new brushes from Refer that they sent over. They are the Shoto collection, so I really want to try these out. So I think I'm gonna use 03. I'm taking this cream shade, which has a little bit of a sheen to it, and I'm gonna put that kind of up in here. I can definitely see the sheen. It's not very pigmented at all. It's kind of just giving me that beigey sheen. Okay, that is, I kind of thought it was gonna highlight a little bit more, but that's fine. So I'm gonna use my pinky, and I picked up the shimmery iridescent kind of shade, and I'm just gonna swoop that up. And that's giving me very much a just kind of sheer wash of sparkle here. And I am building it up just a little bit, kind of pushing it into the skin. Very pretty, very sheer. Here's the first finished look. Second look, again, I primed with the Pat McGrath eyeshadow primer. And I'm a little bit in between going in with this shade and this shade in the crease. I kind of want to go in with this shade, and I'm using the 00 Shoto brush. Picks up a lot of pigment, which is really nice. I'm gonna sweep that into my crease. So this brush you're supposed to be able to essentially kind of pack down, and then also to use it on the side to sweep, to blend. So that's kind of what I'm gonna try to use. I don't really like to use brushes like this for this reason. For some reason, it's not natural for me to turn a brush on its side like that. And then taking the 02 brush into this brown, and I'm gonna pop that on the outer corner. This is definitely a good kind of brush, the kind that I would for sure use. I love these kinds of pointier, but kind of still blending brushes. I'm just gonna use it underneath my lower lash line a little bit. And I mean, that blend is so nice. I'm just gonna go in with a little bit more down here to really connect it and match the depth that is on the outer corner. And then taking the 00 brush and just going over the edges. Picked up the brown shimmer shade, and I did miss my brush just a little bit with some water. And I'm gonna pop that right on this center to the outer corner portion of my lid. And then taking the shimmer shade right next to it, and I missed my brush again, and I'm gonna put that right in here. I would probably recommend a tacky primer because I feel like I might experience fallout with these shades because the sparkle is so fine and it's kind of sitting on top a little bit. I could see some fallout throughout the day, so I would recommend that, especially if you have hooded oily lids. But I would try it with and without and just see what works best for you. Here's the second finished look. Upon first impressions, I have only used this palette these 2 times. Obviously, I have to try it out some more, so stay tuned for my monthly palette ranking so I can give you my full thoughts. But so far, really enjoying it. I think the mattes are super nice. They have a little bit of kick up. They're definitely buildable, and I do really enjoy that, but you can really build them up to full opacity. And I really love the selection of the tones in here. I really love the blue in here. It just adds a little bit of pizzazz to this color story. The shimmers are so beautiful. There's one satin shade. Personally, I'm not huge into satins. There's only certain formulas that I do really enjoy. This one is kind of okay. It's a little bit drier. It feels a little bit thicker to the touch when you're swatching it, but I think it's a good option to have. It's basically another kind of deepening up shade with a little bit of a sheen to it. On the other hand though, this cream shadow with a little bit of like a sheen to it, I feel like I'd rather that had been just a matte shadow that would be opaque, just speaking for my personal preference and how I like to use eyeshadows and the kinds of looks I like to create. But besides the shade, I'm just really enjoying it so far. I had a feeling I was going to. I didn't think that they would be switching up the matte formula or anything like that, or the sparkly shadows. I do want to call out in the original palette that there are 2 of these shimmer shadows that are not the same formula as these topper-like shades, so you are getting more of the beautiful sparkly topper-like ethereal PC looking shimmers in the newer palette, which I do really love that decision. Let me know in the comments below if you pick this palette up. Do you plan on it? I would at this point just wait for a sale. There is a Sephora sale coming up starting for Rouge members November 1st, so wait to get it on sale, whether that's for 20% off, 15% off. If you love detailed videos and sparkly eyeshadows, then definitely check out some of my other videos, and thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time.